Hello everyone, my name is Jeffrey Lee, and this is the 10th episode where I talk about my book, The Fur Trade in Human Civilization. Today we'll be continuing with Chapter 3, going over Section 3.4, where we talk about the American expansion west of the Mississippi River and the fur trade there. Before the construction of railroads in North America, the Mississippi River and its tributaries played a leading role in inland transportation, connecting a vast region from the Great Lakes in the north to the Caribbean Sea in the south, from Ohio in the east to Montana in the west. The Missouri River, a western tributary of the Mississippi, is the longest river in North America, flowing through Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri, playing an important role in transportation. The early fur trade served as a conduit, effectively linking the rugged terrain, harsh climate, and sparsely populated Rocky Mountains with more colonists. So first, let's talk about the Louisiana Purchase. The Louisiana area has been inhabited for thousands of years by indigenous Americans. However, it was first taken over by the French when in 1718, French explorer Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne de Melville established New Orleans, but later, during the American Revolutionary War, France provided substantial support with approximately 99,000 troops, helping to lead to the American victory. Meanwhile, Spain, which had joined the anti-French coalition in the War of the First Coalition in 1794, was defeated. In 1799, Spain sided with France in the War of the Second Coalition, but was defeated by the anti-French forces again. Spain, once a world superpower over 2 centuries ago, was in decline. The success of the American Revolution also inspired burgeoning independence movement throughout Latin America. As a result, all of these events helped lead to many territory exchanges, including Louisiana Purchase. Because Napoleon had to deal with the Napoleonic Wars, he decided to create a deal known as Louisiana Purchase with Americans, seeing 3 main advantages: reducing hostilities, ensuring that the U.S. remained neutral, and securing funds for the French War. In 1803, just days before James Monroe arrived in Paris to continue negotiations for the purchase of New Orleans, the French Minister of France suggested to Robert Livingston that they sell all of Louisiana, not just New Orleans. The Louisiana Purchase, costing roughly 3 cents an acre, expanded American territory westward to the Rocky Mountains. This event helped lead to the spread of Americans further toward the west. So, from the Missouri to the Pacific. After acquiring the Louisiana Territory, the United States embarked on westward exploration. Mississippi provided the most efficient means of transportation for people and materials in an era devoid of modern roads, railways, and air travel. So first, let's talk about the Lewis and Clark Expedition. In 1803, under the commission of President Thomas Jefferson, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark led an expedition from St. Louis, advancing northwest along the Missouri River, traversing the Rocky Mountains and reaching the Pacific coast along the Columbia River. Jefferson's foresight was remarkable. Prior to dispatching Lewis and Clark, he had already initiated 3 unsuccessful attempts to explore the west coast of North America. With the 1803 Louisiana Purchase, the Lewis and Clark expedition had added significance, as it was crucial for gathering more information about the west and clarifying the situation for the demarcation of the U.S. border with Spain. They traversed a huge amount of territory and were able to map out the nature and organisms in the West. So now let's talk about the fur traders' exploration and advancement. In the early 19th century, driven by the profits from the fur trade, fur traders ventured into Missouri and the Columbia River basins. Manuel Lisa, a Spanish-American merchant, arrived in St. Louis at the end of the 18th century and became a fur trader. In the spring of 1807, 6 months after Lewis and Clark's triumphant return to St. Louis, Lisa led a group of over 50 people, some of which had participated in Lewis Clark's expedition from St. Louis, journeying up the Missouri River to search for fur resources. Using the fort as a trading post, they acquired a large quantity of furs, and then they continued their expedition, being able to reach the Pacific and keep expanding the fur trade to the world there. And then we have John Jacob Astor and the Pacific Fur Company. John Jacob Astor, born in Germany and later an immigrant to the United States, initially engaged in the fur trade in Canada before shifting his focus to the United States, where he established a fur trading network based in New York City. Astor dispatched 2 expeditions to Columbia River mouth on the Pacific coast, one by sea and one by land. In September of 1810, the Pacific Fur Company's ship, the Tonquin, set sail from New York under the escort of U.S. warships. It stopped near the Falkland Islands and later arrived at the Columbia River mouth on March of 1811. In early June, the Tonquin, carrying 23 crew members, continued north for further exploration and trade around Clairgoat Sound near Vancouver Island. The overland party, led by Pacific Fur Company partners Wilson Price Hunt and Donald Mackenzie, reached St. Louis on September 3rd of 1810. Hunt recruited experienced fur traders and fur hunters like Edward Robinson, John Hoback, and Jacob Reisner that allowed them to get the experience necessary to make these expeditions. On October 19th, the expedition sets out in 15 locally built canoes. In June 1812, John Stewart led a party from Astoria eastward back over land, and later they successfully arrived in St. Louis. And then we also have the Oregon Trail. The Oregon Trail, originating in St. Louis and passing through Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Idaho, concluded near Fort Vancouver near Portland, Oregon, spanning approximately 2,200 miles. The route traversed the Great Plains and the Mississippi River Basin, the high prairies of Nebraska and Wyoming, the undulating Rocky Mountains, and the basalt plains of the Columbia River. Initially, the Oregon Trail's exploration aimed to tap into the vast fur resources of the western North America and establish a more direct and expedient land route connecting the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans. During the early 19th century, the Oregon Trail was primarily used by fur traders, linking the fur trade across regions such as the Missouri River, the Columbia River, and the Pacific Northwest. In 1836, Dr. Marcus Whitman and his wife Narcissa Whitman, among others from the northeastern United States, traveled to the Oregon area and settled in what is now Washington State, proving that the route was passable by wagon and suitable for family relocation. The 1840s saw a dramatic increase in the number of American migrants traveling via the Oregon Trail to Oregon and California. The burgeoning ideology of Manifest Destiny, which said that Americans deserved to fulfill the destiny of expanding across North America, helped motivate settlers. As more people moved to the west, new and convenient ways of travel were needed. The completion of the Transcontinental Railroad marked a significant shift in American transportation. In 1862, President Lincoln signed the Pacific Railway Act, leading to the construction of the railroad, which started in Sacramento, heading east by the Central Pacific Railroad in 1863, and in Omaha, heading west by the Union Pacific Railroad in 1865. Now let's talk about the Pike Expedition. Following the Louisiana Purchase, significant portions of western Louisiana remained largely unexplored, and the boundaries between the United States and Spanish territory were indistinct. While the Lewis and Clark expedition explored the northwestern regions, Thomas Jefferson in 1806 dispatched Zebulon Pike to survey the west and southern regions along the western bank of the Mississippi River. Pike led a team of 23 soldiers setting out from St. Louis on July 15th, and the expedition initially followed the Missouri River, then ventured into its tributary, the Arkansas River, and moved into present-day Kansas and Colorado. By October, Pike's team had crossed the Great Plains. Later, they planned to follow it downstream to the Mississippi. However, they lost their way and mistakenly traveled north to a southern tributary of the Platte River. Pike persisted in his exploration, and by January 30 of 1807, and the remaining 10 members reached near Alamosa on the Rio Grande in southern Colorado. Pike put a fort there and regrouped the scattered members of his team. The Pike expedition provided valuable information about the southwestern part of the Louisiana Territory, creating detailed maps that filled in significant geographical gaps for the United States at that time. Pike also documented extensive data on the flora and fauna of the southwest Louisiana Territory. Moreover, his expedition assessed the potential resources of the West, such as minerals, land, water sources, and climate conditions. The Pike expedition was the first to directly address the contentious issues regarding the boundaries between Spanish territories and American West and South, spurring further exploration in these regions. And then there was also the Long expedition. Thomas Jefferson commissioned Stephen Harriman Long, a U.S. Army engineer, surveyor, and explorer, to lead a scientific expedition from the Missouri River to the Rocky Mountains. Unlike earlier military expeditions such as those by Lewis, Clark, or Pike, Long's expedition primarily comprised of scientists. They set out to identify many different flora and fauna and helped map out the ecological diversity of these areas. Advancing southwest to Arkansas River, the team proceeded southeast on July 19th, entering areas now known as Oklahoma and Texas. On August 11th, they encountered the Kiowa Apaches in what was the first recorded meeting of white explorers with Native Americans on the Llano Estacado. Long concluded that the Great Plains, which was named the Great American Desert, were unsuitable for farming due to several factors. 1 is water scarcity, 2 is poor and fragile soil, 3 is harsh climate, 4 is fragile ecosystem. Long's assessment led to the initial avoidance of the Great Plains for agricultural development, steering early settlers to other regions. It wasn't until the 1880s that significant development began, and the Dust Bowl of the 1930s highlighted the ecological challenges of inappropriate agricultural practices. In retrospect, Long's cautious approach to development reflected a vision of sustainable progress, avoiding premature exploitation that could lead to environmental degradation and economic waste. And now let's talk about the Fremont expeditions. The first 3 decades of the 19th century saw the United States venturing into the Louisiana region, with fur traders and other settlers pushing into newly opened territories. John C. Fremont between 1838 and 1839 as lieutenant in the Army assisted explorer and geologist Joseph Nicolet in surveying the upper regions of the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. Departing from St. Louis in 1838, the expedition team explored the terrain and hydrology of areas now within Minnesota and North Dakota. The first expedition, Fremont was tasked to scout the migration routes westward, mapping the path from the Missouri River to South Pass in Wyoming, a crucial passage through the Rocky Mountains. South Pass served as a vital gateway to Oregon and California, offering easier crossing due to its lower elevation compared to the surrounding mountains. The second expedition was aimed to thoroughly explore Oregon and California and explore these regions. Fremont's party set out from Kansas City to June of 1843, retracing the route to the South Path. After crossing the Continental Divide and moving west along the Columbia River, they meticulously documented the terrain. The team ventured south into the Nevada mountains and after crossing, explored the San Joaquin Valley and the California coast. This expedition expanded the mapped area to include parts of New Nevada, Oregon, and California, creating detailed maps that were immensely beneficial to migrants. In the third expeditions, with tension rising between the U.S. Mexico and war looming, it became imperative for the U.S. to obtain more comprehensive and detailed geographic and cultural data. Fremont's earlier successes had already made him well known and respected. In the fourth expedition, the expedition aimed to evaluate the feasibility of constructing a railroad along the 30th parallel. And in the fifth expedition, in the fall of 1853, John C. Fremont set out to explore the feasibility of building a transcontinental railroad along the 38th parallel, aiming to traverse the Rocky Mountains and Sierra Nevada. Fremont took the Santa Fe Trail past Bent's Fort and reached Colorado's St. Louis Valley by December. The team then took the northern branch of the Old Spanish Trail, crossing the North American Continental Divide at Cockatoba Pass and continued west into Utah. The journey was arduous, and by February 8th of 1854, they reached Parowan in southwest Utah. Fremont's numerous expeditions, based on professional geographical survey data, produced detailed and accurate maps of the Missouri River, Oregon, California, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and New Mexico, providing guidance for the subsequent migrants and explorers. Over half a century, numerous explorers ventured beyond the Mississippi River to the Pacific coast, exploring complex terrains and finding multiple north-south routes along the expansive Rocky Mountains. This led to the mass migration of hundreds of thousands of people and the early construction of a transcontinental railroad through rugged mountains by 1869. It's noteworthy that before Fremont's systematic exploration of the Rocky Mountains in the 1820s to 1830s, various groups of mountain men, primarily focused on fur trapping and trade, had already penetrated deep into Rocky Mountains. Although these mountain men did not produce maps as precise, accurate, or detailed as those from the Fremont team, their nomadic hunting and fur trading accumulated extensive experience in road knowledge and climate understanding. They cultivated and left behind guides and members who provided invaluable contributions to Fremont and others in wilderness survival, resource management, communication with natives, route exploration, and weather forecasting. So that's it for this section. Again, as always, you can purchase this book on Amazon in the link in the description, and make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.